So I have some good news and I have some bad news. And I just want to be straight with you. I hate when people present me with that proposition because I always feel like the bad news nullifies the good news and it's even worse. It's not like, oh yeah, offsetting penalties on both teams, replay second downs. I feel like the bad news is the 15-yarder and the good news is the 5-yarder. And you know that's always the case with these type of things. It's like if somebody said, Andy, I just won a raffle and I got front row tickets to the Islander Ranger game. They gave me 2 tickets. Oh my God, that's amazing. What's the bad news? They said I can't take you. Now I'm at a worse off place than when I just thought, yeah, it's just a Wednesday. I'll watch the game on TV. No, now I know you're going front row and I can't go for some miscellaneous reason. The bad news is worse than the good news. I will say this is an even district. This is an offsetting penalties. For whatever reason, when filming a Dave and a Dan this week, my internet went straight 1997 56K, like AOL. I lost connectivity. I was hanging on that last bar, like when your phone is going into the subway or something, or when a plane is taken off the ground. And it was hanging on an edge. So throughout this episode, my portion, like me, the audio's all there, but forget about HD 1080p, forget about standard definition, forget about 2001 480p. I am straight up Nintendo 8-bit as this episode progresses. Sorry about that. There's nothing I can do. So treat this like an audio podcast. Just treat this like one that you're listening to. Dave's video's fine, but me, you know, there's somebody on my videos. If you go back, you watch my videos. Somebody comments on every single one. I don't know who this guy is. Must be in Brazil. He goes, Andy, come to Brazil. What am I going to do there? What am I doing in Brazil? I know there are some things to do, but I've never thought about it. But one thing that I do think about, if I go to Brazil, something tells me the internet's not going to be fast. Regardless of how slow your Brazilian internet is, it was 10 times faster than what just happened to me while filming this. So enjoy this episode of a Dave and a Dan in all my blur. It starts out relatively okay and just gets progressively worse. But just bear with it, and we'll be back with you next week for another episode. And I'm just pissed off because I actually prepped a pretty good episode beforehand. Yeah, we're prepping shows. So enjoy it, and sorry for the lack of production quality. But then again, half these people on YouTube, they're in their bedroom. You see what they got up on their wall. You see me do hundreds of shows. Just forgive me this one time. We'll be back with you next week for the crisp 1080p. Maybe I'll even upgrade to 4K. So, sorry. Here's a Dave and a Dan. What is up, everyone? It's another Friday, and there's another episode of a Dave and a Dan. We might need a new name for this show because apparently we're not doing our job. We're not doing our job every single week. I come here and I drag these charts in front of you. I say, here's how you cannot be a Dan. Here's how you cannot be a dunce. Here's how you cannot be a donkey. And I just assume people are doing some learning in some capacity. But then what do I have to see last night? After showing you the donkey charts repeatedly, I have to go on social media and see that everybody's saying it's rigged. The NFL, it's rigged. How can you even watch 5 minutes of this show and believe that rigging is a thing? Do you see all these people here? Oh, he missed a field goal. A guy missed a 50-something yard field goal, but because I didn't cover the spread as a Dan betting with the unluckiest guy in every single town in the United States, and probably Canada, and probably random other countries, a guy in Nigeria had the Dallas Cowboys -5.5, and he lost 2. Do you want to be betting with all them? Or do you want to be on that other side? I just don't understand that if you think that the NFL is rigged, you know what you're doing, right? You're essentially admitting that you as a human being, individually, you're sharp enough to identify a criminal conspiracy going on right under our nose, and yet you're still dumb enough to continue to bet on the public favorites despite the fact that you claim the games are being rigged against them. And if that is the case, then what about the pass interference call against the Chiefs, right? Everyone had the Chiefs. You saw them on the chart. Everybody had the Chiefs. Sunday Night Football, they could have raked everybody's chips in. All they got to do is call pass interference. No pass interference. What's your big answer there? Because then what do you do next? Now your preposterous claims steer from The league is rigged to make money to the league is rigged for the Chiefs. It's rigged for the Chiefs. So now we got to shift the narrative for everything's rigged for the league to make money to I know a guy who knows a guy who played indoor soccer with the son of the O-line coach for the Chiefs who swears up and down they pay off the refs before the games. Is this the road you guys want to go? You will not be affiliated with my videos here and spread such nonsense out there. And where does this road end? Do you want to know where it ends? In a year or two, you're going to be on Facebook reposting stories about kids being hidden in the cabinets at Wayfair. Do you want to end up like that? Or do you want to end up a winner? Do I got to rename this show from a Dave and a Dan to a Dave, a Dan, another Dan, two more Dans, and a bunch of donkeys and dunces? Because I don't even know if Dave can save you if you're so far down the Dan path that you think the league is rigged. But regardless, I'm still going to try. So we're going to bring on Dave for yet another week of, Dave came in, his kids woke him up in the morning. I said, maybe I can just fire him up a little bit, give him a little morning coffee.
I wanted to start talking about the moon landing and potentially 9/11, but you mentioning the kids hidden in the cabinets of Wayfair, that got me, man. I had a nice setup on my intro. That guy, I actually know the guy and I've known him for a long time that started that conspiracy of the Wayfair kids in the cabinets.
It's so funny that I thought it was just a throw, and people said, like, I thought that was one of those Onion headlines. Like, they got kids in the cabinets at Wayfair. And somebody told me, like, it was an actual thing. I was like, are you nuts? Yeah. Are you nuts?
It was
if
big.
I'm hiding kids, it's going to be in some ridiculous, like, some manufacturing company with steel parts. I'm not doing it in Wayfair where we've all
a shipping container would work. Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, we can all agree on JFK, though, right? Let's be honest. Can we at least find common ground on JFK?
Guys, the reason I should have credibility with you is because there is no more of a skeptical mind than me. I know for a fact, I'm not convinced that there is the same amount of stuffing in single stuffed Oreos as there is double stuffed Oreos. I'm 100% certain they just use a fluffer element to give the appearance of double stuff. Everything. I can name you 500 things. There's a reason I do scam of the week, but it makes no sense for the NFL to be rigged. And do you hear how dumb most of the people are? You think they could all just keep it in coordination? Somebody tweeted they got in contact with the kicker. Who?
Andy, can I just put an end to this quickly? Real quickly. If you want just the death knell for anybody talking about it being rigged, I'll give it to you right now. I bet the Cowboys at -4.5. What about those people?
And that's a beautiful thing. The early sniff catches the fair price, as I said on yesterday's show.
And this isn't a victory lap either. What I'm saying is there were 4.5s out there, right? There were 4.5s out there and it moved. A lot of people got the 4.5 on Dallas and it covered, right? So I have a lot of buddies that had the 6 on the Giants and it covered. A lot of people won. A lot of people still won.
How about this? If the NFL is rigged, here you go. You want the leaked script? Here's Andy giving you another leaked Game of Thrones script ahead of time. Let me spoil it for you. Here it is. The leaked script for week 4. You already saw the top one on the list play out. You already saw the most heavily bet one play out. Why don't you show some balls? Why don't you show you're the genius who knows it's leaked? There's the next one for you. There's the next one.
Yep.
All you got to do is bet against the Steelers. Take the Colts plus 1.5. You're going to do that, right? You're going to do that. They're going to rig it, right? They're going to get in touch with the kicker. Boswell's going to miss one at the end of the game. Maybe they'll win by 1. But no, you're not going to do that. What you're going to do is you're going to bet on the Steelers. You're going to be the dunce who bets on the Steelers a week after complaining that the NFL rigs. And there you are, right? There you are. Steelers -1.5. You wouldn't catch me dead betting on the Steelers this weekend in a battle of yet another awful pair of young quarterbacks whose coordinators are going to have to draw up some gimmicky, scam, unsustainable game plan that can win a game or two, but never a Super Bowl. You're never going to see me bet them, so maybe I'll I'll kind of shift my focus to Dave here. I know what the donkeys are betting, Dave. Where are you leaning in this game? It's so easy to say 3-0. It's the Steelers. I mean, do you see Richard saying 50%? The defense he's facing? Classic donkey play.
I'll say this much. I still don't like the Colts.
No, neither do I.
I don't like Anthony Richardson's bad.
Yeah.
And maybe he figures it out. Maybe. But it is still a good defense. Now, we know how the level of parity in the NFL is just absurd, right? So, yeah, it certainly feels like the type of spots where the Colts win. I actually leaned over in this game when it was sitting at 39.5. I'm more of a player prop spot on this. I like the over on George Pickens this week. This guy is so good, and he's not getting the respect that he deserves in the prop market. He's sitting under, well, I grabbed him at 49.5. He's sitting at 52. And look, now he's up to 53.5 on DraftKings. First of all, I don't disagree. The Pittsburgh Steelers, obviously, after what we saw with that interception from Richardson last week, one of the worst throws, and kind of right on cue with your opening monologue last week on rushing quarterbacks. So that was perfect because he stunk. But Pickens and Fields have a legitimate connection. He's 3 for 3 on deep attempts for 100 yards. If you look at the only game he didn't come close to hitting this, he went over it easy last week, and that was in a spot where they didn't need to throw. Crushed it in week 1 against a good Atlanta secondary that doesn't allow a lot of deep passes. The only time he didn't was week 2 against Patrick Surtain, and he actually cooked Surtain all game. Surtain had 2 PI fouls against him for 50 yards. He beat him deep for a 50-yard pass that got called back on a stupid penalty, and he had a touchdown in that game that got called back. So this is a game for me where I'm leaning heavy into the variance on a George Pickens play. I'm going to ladder it. I'm going to play the over, and I'm going to have some fun with it. But I'm not betting either side of this from a spread standpoint. I'm just not doing it.
I completely agree with you. Remember, just because I show you these donkey charts, to me, I treat these like Minesweeper. Yeah, maybe Pittsburgh will cover or something, but my God, that's a red. So that's what I do. I put the red flag from Minesweeper. I'm not sure if there's a bomb under there, and I just say, stay the hell away from that. Because you want something to just ruin your tickets, that's it. And his Pickens pick sounds eerily reminiscent to the Amari Cooper pick, but Amari Cooper at least wasn't productive. This receiver has been productive. And if there's one thing you know about me from these last couple of years, all I'm looking for, I waved goodbye to Chris Olave because he's graduated. He's graduated to the Rashee Rice level, and we only take the bands when they're on the, cheap circuits. We're not taking 70s. We're not taking 80s. And this is another guy with a low receiving total. And I completely agree with the alt because he doesn't have to get to 130 to hit a great alt. He only has to get numbers under 100 will still provide massive plus money opportunities. So that's something that I definitely can get behind. Now, for the second straight week, we had to have a quarterback. First, it was in his 40s. This time, in his 30s. Had to show everybody how to play quarterback. They had to dig up Andy Dalton the same way the WWE had to dig up The Undertaker to save WrestleMania after WrestleMania after WrestleMania. And now we got the first guy of all people to throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, and tell me that isn't an indictment of the number 1 overall pick. And that is Andy Dalton with these Carolina Panthers. Now, the same way you gave that Pickens bet, but, Pickens kind of already showed it before that. I was all about Deontay Johnson last week because we got a number that was built by Bryce Young. So this is a completely separate circumstance. And I, believe it or not, am actually going back to that. I gave that out yesterday on the video I uploaded because while they may have jacked up his yardage total by 10 yards, I think the loss of Adam Thielen truly counters that. And you saw the pass defense of this Cincinnati Bengals team. So there will be plenty of opportunities. He did miss practice Thursday. We will confirm that, he's good to go, and that was just precautionary. But I'm going back to Deontay Johnson. It opened at 59.5, I believe. probably up to 63, 64 now, but he's a guy that, I mean, if Andy Dalton's going to be chucking again, you have the motivation against his former team who's reeling a little bit. I'm kind of feeling that Deontay. I'm seeing 62.5 on DraftKings. So yeah, it's lingering around that area.
I mean, I'd rather take the. Can you scroll down a little bit? I'd rather take the 63.5 minus 114. Oh, there you go. Bet MGM. There, okay, that's a good one right there. You will get zero pushback from me. I already bet him to score in this game. 37% target share last week, 14 targets in Dalton's first game. Not only that, though, the reason I like him from a touchdown prop. Now, you got to find the right odds on this, and we can look to see if it's moved since I last bet it. But there is something that I want to get to on Deontay, and this will kind of back you up on where we're going as the overall thing. Maybe you even grab a little same game parlay. But last week, he saw 4 targets in the end zone. 4. Andy Dalton targeted 5 players in the end zone. One of them was Thielen, scored on a 31-yard touchdown. He's out. So now you just have a bunch of essentially unproven pass catchers. Tommy Tremble, Mingo, Xavier Leggett, like these guys, nobody that stands out. If they're and I like the over in this game, by the way. I could see this kind of evolving into a shootout. I'm not saying that we take one game from Andy Dalton and just assume that he's going to be amazing. That we should not. We should not be doing that. But that Cincinnati defense was beyond putrid on Monday night. So, yeah, I like Deontay over on rush or receiving, and I like him to score as well. What do you have? +1 flip.
Alex, I think what you're looking for is anytime touchdown. You went to receiving touchdown, which is probably a better value, but it would probably be to the left. Usually touchdowns would be maybe there's a total touchdowns.
Total touchdowns. You passed it. There you go. So are you on California here, or do we have everything?
No, I think I think I had him switch it.
Yep, you're good. You're good. Let's see.
+180 on Hard Rock?
Yeah, it's only in Florida though, right? +170.
No, it's like it's in Jersey and some other states.
Yeah, the only book in Florida is Hard Rock.
Correct.
I don't have it here. Yeah, you look at Pinnacle, the odds don't look great compared to the other books, but I still sprinkled on it on Caesars at +170. He's the only reliable guy in this offense.
So I'm going to bring up a guy to you. I truly believe you're going to have a certain amount of time to cash on certain players, and then you're like, all right, that's it. Chris Olave graduated. Rashee Rice was an immediate graduator. We saw the return of T. Higgins to the lineup. He got through that game healthy. He looked fine anytime he had single coverage as the game went on. They obviously had to get Chase his after his first couple weeks. I think you were all over that. And now that Higgins is confirmed healthy, didn't re-aggravate anything. He should be fully healthy going into this must-win game. And Burrow he's shown a propensity to get the ball to Higgins a lot on particular occasions. I feel like he destroys his over, or he gets like 20 or so yards. I think this game sets up very well for him. There's going to be a bunch of coverage on Chase, and I think Higgins flies under the radar. He opened up at 51.5. If this was last year, the year before, the number is higher than this. So I think this provides a great opportunity to go over for T. Higgins, who came out of that game fine, looked good, was able to get open anytime he was one-on-one, and I believe this one sets up well for him as well.
Love it. Ran a route on 95% of dropbacks, played 90% of snaps in his first game back. Yeah. Oh yeah. I zero issues here at all. I like the T. Higgins spots more than Chase here this week. Yeah. I love Chase last week. He laddered his touchdown props up to 3. We got 2 at 9-1. So we'll take it. The third would have been nice, but yeah, Higgins is a good spot. Like I said, though.
Come on, are you like the kid from Seinfeld? You on 3 Paul O'Neill home runs? Come on, you get 2.
Would have been nice, dude. I had it at 55-1 on FanDuel. By the time that closed, it was like 35 or something to 1. So yeah, I would have liked that. Would have enjoyed that. But
how about for the game? You think this is rat potential here? Was this one on the donkey charts, Alex?
See, I would have thought
They
more
are.
people
All
would be
right,
on
not
the
that bad.
Panthers.
You forget your average guy. Your average
Yeah.
guy just thinks that the Panthers got lucky. They have one win. They probably don't even – some people probably don't even know that Andy Dalton's starting. You know, who the hell knows? But that's not overly crazy. Usually I consider 70% or more on the crazier side of like, oh, this is a full dunce cap potential. They're trying to bait you into taking it. This one isn't all that bad. I want to bring up a team who I kind of confidently said I thought it was a good bet, but I gotta say there are eerily similar parallels between your squad from last year, who you talked about many times, how when after that great Super Bowl year, they were winning, they started undefeated, but something didn't feel right. Tell me that does not feel like the Kansas City Chiefs right now. You got Travis Kelce out there looking like an Airbnb property manager in Nashville all of a sudden. I see fan accounts saying the same exact things that the Eagles fans were saying last year. Hey, we're 3-0 and playing our worst football. How spoiled are we? Went to the Super Bowl, we're 3-0 and we're complaining. Imagine when we actually start playing well. Is there a chance that the Chiefs could really go through a rough stretch with the way this weird offense can't seem to generate a ton?
Yeah. I just don't see this as like I don't see this as apples to apples with the Eagles. Because Andy Reid has proven himself as an elite football coach for many years. Like he's so much better than Nick Sirianni that they're not even in the same realm of coaching. Steve Spagnuolo, compared to whatever we were trying to do defensively last year, so much better. Just across the board, they're just a better coach team. Jalen Hurts is not Patrick Mahomes. I see what you're saying, but also last year the Chiefs weren't good for most of the
Yeah, you're
season.
right. The defense is too good to actually, because the Eagles defense really failed them last year.
But
And
Andy, the Eagles weren't good. The Chiefs weren't. The Chiefs weren't good last year in the regular season.
he sniffs on that game because we're looking at a similar Justin Herbert status where he'll probably play, but is he going to finish the game?
I bet the Chargers at 8.5 on principle, because the Chiefs, just as big favorites, like touchdown plus favorites, and Patrick Mahomes just have a history of not covering those games. But like I said, I bet that on principle, not because I see really anything else going on here. I don't know if Herbert's going to play. He's still limited. The guy's a warrior. He plays through everything. But now that was just one of those spots where it's like, wow, 8.5. I think this moves. It's 7.5 now. 7 in some spots. Caesars has it at 7. BetMGM has it in 7.
I am going to be a little bit of a Dan on one narrative. I do have a little Dan narrative that, I'm willing to pay the price if it costs me.
Let's hear it.
And, nothing motivates somebody like getting screwed. You can look no further than me. I mean, I've lived in other states just to screw somebody who said like, oh, he would never live. I lived there just to screw one person. I'll go a long way. I'll run 5 miles out of my way to gain an inch on somebody just if I think they're going to screw me. And I think it's the best motivational factor there is out there. The screw jobs and the screw job prevent defense, which I've talked about on some of my other podcasts in the past. And Aaron Jones is a guy who I think in his mind perceives that he was screwed. They made him take a pay cut. They wanted him to take a second pay cut. Then they cut him and paid Josh Jacobs more money than they would have paid him. That's a screw job. So then what does he do? I know, like I said, I would move to a state just to screw somebody. He goes to the exact rival of that team. Probably from a fan's perspective, the last team, maybe other than the Bears, you'd want to see Aaron Jones playing on. And now he's going back to Green Bay. And typically, if this was a regular game, it was a week 2 game, week 6 game, I'd say you got to be careful here. Ty Chandler's actually a good running back. Gets a significant amount of the touches. I have faith in an uptick. I mean, he's already being efficient with all of his touches. I have faith in these Aaron Jones stats across the board. His rushing opened at 56.5. His touchdown, I can't believe it's at plus 130. Anything around the goal line, they're giving him a shot or two to get in there. So I'm going with the Aaron Jones chalk revenge narrative this week. And I don't say that lightly. The way they screwed him is a way that resonates with me. And I'm going with it. I
don't hate it. Well, see, the problem is you're talking to a guy who, if you've ever watched any of my stuff, like DFS betting, whatever it may be, that just loves Aaron Jones and has always loved Aaron Jones. I've always been the guy to die on the Aaron Jones hill when everybody says that he's washed and that he can't stay healthy. Andy, it's always me that has to come and, defend this man and his honor, despite him not having any clue who I am. But I love Aaron Jones. Like, I really, you go back, there's only one other running back that I've ever been like, hey, this guy, I want to watch all of his games. He's great, and he doesn't get the credit he deserves. Until this day, he still doesn't, is Jamal Charles, the greatest. But the greatest.
Highest yards per carry, like, of all time for a couple of years, until maybe somebody.
No, I think I don't think anyone has ever played as many seasons and had as high yards per attempt as he has.
Yeah, you'll get a couple people who play like a scam 2 to 3 years, and then they'll top him. But then as they continue to play, they fall off.
Anyway, I like it. I would probably, what I would probably look to do here if I were to bet it. I know you said anytime touchdown, no issues there. But this for me would be a rushing plus receiving yards.
Yes. Yeah. It is a little higher than I thought. I thought it was going to be a 77, but yeah, because he's so dynamic, and he could take one screen 45 yards and now you're good. And that happens relatively frequently with him. So I do agree with you there. When I say across the board, I mean across the board. I'll take anything you got for me when it comes to Aaron Jones in this game. And as far as the spread, this is a pretty fascinating one because I'm not sure which way people go on this. I mean, you have an undefeated team, but then you could potentially. I actually like the Vikings only if Jordan Love returns, because I don't like that fill in. Everybody plays a little bit better than they normally do to fill in for the missing quarterback. I'd rather the quarterback come back, and then maybe this looks a little more like week one.
I got the Packers at -2.5, and I'm okay with that. At 3, it's a little bit different. Brian Flores, that defense has been crazy. I saw someone refer to him as his defense as an evil defense, like just a straight, like evil genius type defense. Man, they had CJ Stroud just mind boggled out there. It's impressive, but Matt LaFleur is also like Matt LaFleur offensively is what Flores is defensively. He's taken this team to 2 straight wins as dogs with Malik Willis. And that can't be ignored either. When they're like, yeah, Kevin O'Connell, look what he did with Sam Darnold. Yeah, look what Matt LaFleur did. And by the way, they lost that game in Brazil to the Eagles on the final drive. So, that was a competitive game throughout. I think that also you were pulled up that chart before. I believe it showed the Vikings with like 69% of tickets on them. They're 3-point now instead of 2.5-point dogs, but fun game. I see where you're going with Jones. If you're taking the narrative here, I can get behind that, but I'm still leaning Packers -2.5. The problem is I think it's all 3s out there now.
Yeah. If that thing gets to 3.5, then I will take the Vikings.
Definitely.
And then me and Dave can both win, and then somebody complain that it's rigged, despite the fact we both won on opposite sides of the same exact.
Those are both good bets, though. If the Vikings got to 3.5,
I will say around here we leave no stone unturned, which is going to be our. Let's take a guess at what that saying is, but we'll do that in a little bit. I told people on my last video, if you have any questions, you want me to ask Dave something that I didn't talk about on my preliminary, Sunday video for some of my early plays, let me know and I'll ask Dave. So what we had was one come up about the Falcons New Orleans game. They said, are either frauds in the NFC South battle between New Orleans and Atlanta, Carr versus Kirk? Well, my opinion. Carr is finding his way to 500.
Mm-hmm.
8-1. He's going to find a tie in there by hook or by crook, no matter how dominant if they look dominant in weeks 1 and 2, it means they're going to look like garbage weeks 16 and 17. It's just, that's who Carr is. So I'll buy into Atlanta, who will probably have, kind of their season trend upwards as Cousins feels, more integrated into that system, feels better about the Achilles. You're already starting to see him play a little bit better. And that team starts to kind of have an identity of its own, opposed to Carr and a team who everybody thought was going to be awful, who's giving Alvin Kamara 28 carries, and now he's already missed in practice. He can never hold up and withstand that type of workload. Think about the narrative about how good the Saints were last week. I'll never give in early, especially when it comes to Carr and Rivers. So I'm going full frauds for the Saints.
I don't know if I'd call them frauds, because I think they probably have another like 9-8 type season. But as far as like Super Bowl contenders, no, absolutely not. Not with Derek Carr at the helm. I don't think the Falcons are frauds at all. I don't think, again, they're a Super Bowl contender, but I don't think this is a bad football team. The offensive line injuries are a bit troublesome, although the Saints lost their starting Pro Bowl, All-Pro center as well. But I look at this team and I go, okay, they have a good secondary. They're not allowing any deep passing plays. They pretty much stifled the Eagles offense for the majority of that game. They shut down the Kansas City offense. It was, the pass interference that should have been on Pitts, but put him at the 1 yard line, even though the refs had some wild makeup calls in the ensuing drive for the Falcons. What I'm saying is they've actually played pretty good football. The first game they lost against the Steelers, it was Kirk Cousins' first game back. They only gave up 18 points, and some of that was bad field position allowed on turnovers. I think the Falcons are a good team. I got them at 1.5 here. It's at 2.5 now. If you're asking me whether you're betting this game or not, I still like the Falcons inside of a field goal. I actually think they're a better overall football team.
I'll take the Falcons in this game as well. You tweeted something the other night that caught my eye, and then we can use that to talk about Sunday Night Football because I was equally as sick. Can you imagine, assuming this is real and not a hoax and not kids in the cabinets at Wayfair, could you imagine going to a game and your wife bringing that sign? Can you imagine that?
No, obviously, because you see my tweet. You know what it reminds me of? Did you used to watch Chappelle's Show?
Yeah.
Remember Mad Real World, where Lysol takes the dude's girl and makes him watch in the corner in the dark while he lays in bed with her?
Oh, there's another one.
That's what this guy reminds me of, man.
There's a Sacha Baron Cohen. Oh God, I forget who was the God, he goes to like a rap battle in one of his movies. The guy he's freestyling against in a rap battle talks about doing something to his wife and making him watch, and he actually turns into how he's going to enjoy watching.
It wasn't Borat. It definitely wasn't the first Borat.
No.
Was it Bruno?
I'll have to look that one up. But how about we take a look at who this woman cheers for, Josh Allen, the 3-0 Bills taking on these Ravens in a Sunday Night Football game, which means a lot of people are going to be looking to either get money back or try to double up after what they won on Sunday. And this really is a tough one. This is another one that I wish was 3.5, because then I'll just click Bills, hope it ends by a field goal. This is really tough.
It's super tough. I lean over here in this game. You've got the Ravens. It's a Sunday night game, right? So the Bills are a short week, but it's not super short, right? It's Monday night to Sunday night. Nothing crazy. I'd lean Ravens. I'd lean over. But just like you and I talked about with that Ravens and Dallas game, where I just didn't have a good feel for it. And it turned out to be a strange game where Lamar only completed 12 passes. They ran it down their throats. I'm having trouble with this one. Again, the only thing I keep coming back to, though, is that Buffalo's defense hasn't been tested yet. Like, Trevor Lawrence and the Jags are totally lifeless. That's not a good litmus test for how good they are. The week prior to that, who did Buffalo play the week before that? I know they played Arizona in week 1.
Yeah, and then week 2 was the Thursday game where Tua got hurt.
Yes, thank you. And Tua was bad in that game before he got hurt with some
Yep.
terrible mistakes. Baltimore at home, yeah, I think you could really see some scoring here. Not to mention the Ravens have allowed more pass completions of 20-plus yards than any other team in the league this year. They've done a decent job mitigating the touchdowns and kept the yardage in between the 20s for the most part. But with the way Josh Allen's playing, eventually that catches up to you. So I think there's still some 46s out there. I'm intrigued by the total in this game, more so the over, but I'd lean Ravens. I haven't bet anything in this game yet, though.
Well, you said you were very surprised that 2 weeks ago Zay Flowers was in the 40s. You were kind of surprised to hear that. Well, last week he was in the 50s. They went up by so many points in the first half, and then just got to run Henry. There was no need to throw them. They didn't even throw the ball more than a handful of times in the entire second half.
Yep.
Well, the result of that is you once again have Zay Flowers in the 40s. That's one that no different than anything else. If you have a lot of talent and you have a low total, no different than Pickens, no different than Higgins, no different than Johnson. It's just too low for me. It's too low, and I'm going to go over on Flowers.
That's a smash.
Yeah, it sounds like that one's going to make my Christopher Walken 2 leg at a time. Is it the time for that? Should we bust that out?
Oh, by the way, did that end up hitting the Josh Allen one? Did that the under pass attempts? I think it did, right? Because they pulled him.
It did.
That's the reason I ask is because that guy tweeted at us and like, man, Josh Allen's going to crush this. And even you were like, yeah, it's an easy sweat because at no point do you have to sweat that it's going to win. It ended up hitting, dude.
It ended up hitting. It's a no sweat bet. And the reason you don't say like, oh, you're lucky, you're not unlucky. Well, I also gave out the Patrick Mahomes over 18.5 rushing yards. He had 30. And he took -6 to run time off the clock, 3 straight plays. And then that one goes under. So,
Oh, wait, that lost?
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes did not clear his rushing yards based on the run back and take a knee. It wasn't just taking knees. He ran back to burn a couple seconds off the clock. So he went -5, -5, -5. And then all of a sudden that took him under his 18.5 rushing yard total.
Did I lose both of mine? I don't even remember what I had.
No, you definitely hit the Amari Cooper.
Oh, was Amari in there? Okay.
Yeah, the alt on Amari Cooper. I think.
Oh, I went. Oh, that's right.
We had a dual loss. You were going to go you were stuck between Zamir White and Kyron Williams. And I'm like, no, this is an awful setup for Kyron. And
he got them both wrong.
He had a great game. So,
but it took him 24 carries to get 80 yards. It's still wildly inefficient. I just didn't think that game would be as close as it was. But I take the L. We move on.
Okay, so that gives us another opportunity if we can try to build our parlay in the way that Christopher Walken would suggest that we do it, which is
just like the rest of you, one leg at a time.
Do you want me to start the bidding, or should I just start with that one that we have right there? We got Zay Flowers. He's listed at 48.5. And the beautiful thing about those low numbers, whether you're talking about Wan'Dale Robinson last night or so many of these guys, Deontay Johnson, I gave the 70 plus on the video last week. That was 30, and you're getting big plus money. I'm going to go 70 plus right here for Zay Flowers in that night game. So I guess we're going to work backwards like in the movie Memento. We'll start with the late game and work our way back toward the early game.
I love it. I just bet that, by the way.
You're welcome.
Yeah. I like that spot. Memento, that's the one where he has all the writing on his arm and stuff?
Yeah, and the movie, I think, plays out backwards.
Yeah. Give me Pickens. I mean, I think I might have to go Pickens.
That's the right one. You need something that they've just kind of undershot in terms of the number.
Go for it. Yeah. From what I saw earlier, Caesars has the best alt lines on his receiving props. If you're going all the way to the top, 110 is the best on DraftKings at plus 850. But Yeah, for alt receptions or alt receiving yards on Pickens, 70 is not a bad number. I'm with you on that.
And then I'm going to do the same exact thing with T. Higgins. If he's coming in right around these same numbers that you're seeing on your screen for Pickens. All these guys are around 50, 51, 47. So we're going to be getting great prices on 70. It's not that hard to hit 70 yards in the modern NFL, as long as you have a somewhat competent quarterback, is not some crazy thought.
Maybe we should just go over 70 on Deontay Johnson instead to get to 70 for all four of them.
Yeah, let's do that. I mean, that's definitely one. I think I gave that out, so that's perfect. So yeah, 70 plus yards for Deontay Johnson. So 70s across the board. And let's see if we can try to nail that for a one leg at a time parlay here for week 4. And now we will just quickly end with, something we got to do here. I want you to take your guess at leave no stone unturned.
Oh, well, so, I would imagine olden days, maybe you're looking for gold or valuables, potentially even for bait to fish, Andy, or anything that could be of value or worth to you. And in order to do so, you must unturn stones and see what lies beneath them.
Yeah, if you had to trend towards a genre, like I really think you are headed in the right direction with, did you say gold?
Yeah, I would say, like gold or valuables or something like that. Yeah.
That's the odds-on favorite, right? Leave no stone. You're looking for gold in the mountains, and you got to leave no stone unturned. I'm going to go full opposite. My job is to try to be creative. I want Dave to have the opening. He's like the first guy since I came up with it. I can't guess first because, a conspiracy NFL is rigged type of person would say, oh, but then he thinks of it, comes up with his answer over the course of the week. No, I'm the guy who goes second on Family Feud. Dave gets the first crack at the answer that he can put the most popular one out there, and then I got to come up with something else. I'm going with the absurd Game of Thrones philosophy. Something about when people's dead, you got to put stone on their eyes. And when somebody dies, you got to leave no stone unturned, or it's like bad luck in the afterlife. Or I'm going complete like folklore.
I nailed it.
Yes. The expression references an ancient Greek legend about people trying to find a treasure hidden by a general as his army was being defeated in battle. Fair enough. I would argue it's not the gold variety. You can't just say.
Well, I said gold
have to check
or
every
valuable.
crevice.
I said gold or valuable.
But the true answer is there was a war and the stone was affiliated with lost battles. Like it's not. You can't just put a blanket searching for something and because then that can apply to everything.
But they were searching for something that was under a stone.
But that was very specific to battles and wars. Like it has nothing to do with gold. I was thinking gold rush, California gold rush.
No, I wasn't thinking specks of gold, like trying to find a vein. Of course not. You wouldn't look under rocks for that. Talking like gold coins, valuables.
Why would they be under stones?
Well, because the Oracle of Delphi put them there. I don't know, dude. Let me come up with one. Let me come up with one next week.
I got good news. A certain something's coming back next week because the month of October is here, and a certain sport starts that people keep ridiculously asking me to bet on the preseason. I'm not Dave. I'm not willing to put in the work to see which fourth liners are going to be getting points. Because it's not like the NFL where they're going to have all the player props available. I'm going to have to bet on donkey bets, which I refuse to do. So that's starting up next week. I know you guys are going to be pumped for that, but do me a favor. All those things I ask, I call them the Dunkin' Donuts, the donuts, bagels, muffins. Like, comment, subscribe. You got the big 3 in Boston, but then there was Rajon Rondo. Click the notifications. And obviously, you can join the chats and everything where I update all my stuff over at the Patreon. Some of you guys been going over to Dave on Odd Shopper. Very much appreciate that. You represent yourselves well. Dave texted me, said some of your people came over, enjoyed. They were positive for the most part. I like to hear that.
Appreciate it.
It was fun as always, Dave. We will be back with you next week for week 5. Good luck to everyone, but obviously, better luck to me. Even more so, yeah, good luck to you, better luck to Dave, but best luck to me.